man, I have concerns. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today is the start of another writing vlog, and a very special writing vlog indeed, because this is the writing vlog where I am finally starting the draft. The first draft of Seekers of Empyrean, my urban fantasy that I have been world building and outlining for the last 5 months. When I last left you guys, I was in Nashville preparing to jet out ASAP to get out ahead of the hurricane. And my goal was to hastily finish my scene outline worksheets to complete the final draft of my outline. And I did do that. I did complete the outline, and I am ready to start drafting. And that is kind of a scary prospect. My goal was to take a little bit of a break between finishing the outline and starting the draft. However, I slept on it and I realized that that's probably a bad idea. I have taken enough time off from my project over the last 3 or 4 weeks just due to health issues and being distracted by work and then my vacation and everything. And that has left me feeling a little bit disconnected from the story, which is not a good place to be in as I am starting the draft. So with all of the work that I did yesterday and this week to finish the outline, I am starting to feel reconnected, and I don't think that taking another break, even if it's just for 2 or 3 days, is a good idea. I'm not going to start writing today, probably, unless I get a bug at my butt. But what I have done is I have imported my outline into the cloud-based word processor that I will be using to draft, which is called Dabble. You can find more information on them at dabblewriter.com. Not sponsored, this is just the program that I am using. And I mentioned last week that the reason I'm using this particular word processor is because it is cloud-based, and it has a lot of the functionality that I appreciate in Scrivener, which would be my preferred word processor if it weren't locked to a single computer. I'm able to break my chapters down into scenes and then split them up. Which allows me to jump around. Not that I will, I'm pretty linear based. It's got great word count tracking and word count goal setting. It's got a built-in timer so you can track your word or track your writing sessions. I'm pretty pleased with it. I've dabbled in it with it before, but never completed a draft. So I don't know how it'll be when I get into revisions, but for a first draft, this is what I'll be using. And what I did today was I went ahead and I imported my outline, which is basically I took all of my worksheets and kind of broke them down into scene cards via a function in Dabble itself, just saying these are the scenes that are going to break down or that are going to be in each chapter, a brief description, and then I've also included my word count goal for each. That took me about an hour, and what I learned from that process is I have 24 chapters and an epilogue. And if that seems short, it's because it is. The most alarming thing I learned from this exercise was I totaled up my word count estimates, and I always do a range, and my low range is exceedingly short. And even my top range is still not quite at 90,000. So I'm a little bit worried. I do think I'm underestimating word counts for certain scenes. And I do think that there's going to be mini scenes or sequels in between some of these other scenes and chapters that I haven't quite actualized in my head yet. But I feel like as I'm going through my outline, I'm like, this is going to need a transitionary couple of paragraphs or a full scene to make it more smooth. And even though I haven't included them in my detailed outline, I know that there's going to be moments like that where it's not quite its own scene, but it doesn't quite fit in either of the ones that came before it. and that's going to add to the word count a little bit, but I am still very, very concerned about how thin that it is. But again, I'm not interested in going backward. I'm only going forward. And so what I'm going to do is just go with it and just roll with it. And as I draft, I'm going to, again, realize what works, what doesn't, and probably include some things I hadn't considered before. And that's just the magic of drafting. I am a staunch planner, but I do know that there is a certain magic of discovery writing. And so there is still room for discovery in my process, and that's what this is. I'm leaving the door open for new ideas to be generated as I get into the weeds of the draft itself. So I'm not freaking out just yet, but it is still a area of concern, especially since it has been an area of concern since I started the outline in August. But again, not much for it except to move on. I feel a lot more connected to the story now than I did a couple of days ago, and I feel like I'm probably going to start the draft tomorrow if I don't convince myself to do it tonight. My daily goal is 1,000 words a day. That is less than the amount that I was writing when I was writing semi-professionally, and I was expected to do 40,000 words in 1 month. At that time, my goal was 1,250 a day. That was doable, but stressful. And obviously it's far less than the nano goal of 1667, which is very stressful, but again, doable. But it is more than the 500 words a day, which I feel very comfortable doing. I can write 500 words in about an hour. If I'm in the middle of a flow, I can knock it out in half an hour. So I'm looking at an hour or two of drafting every single day, and that it's just a little bit scary because I don't know where I have an hour or two of writing in my schedule. But this is what I want to do. This is my dream. And so I'm just gonna have to make the time. So that's where I'm at right now. Eager to get started, to be honest with you. Okay, real quick, I just want to show you how I imported my outline into Dabble. So as you can see, we've just got these little note cards here, and we've got them organized by chapter, the name of the scene. I know that's a little goofy, but that's what I do. And then a brief description of the scene itself. And then at the bottom, I included a word count goal. And then I just did that for every single scene. And it took me about an hour, maybe just over an hour, to import this from my hard copies. But yeah, so now when I get started on the draft, I've already got it all broken out as I need to. And of course, this is editable. I'm not married to this in any way, but it's nice to just have a framework that I can work from. So that's it. Hello. It is now Saturday evening, just after 5 o'clock, and I am just about to start the draft. I have actually been laying in my bed for the last 20 minutes, trying to think of how I'm going to start this draft, because the beginning is always hard for me. I think it's hard for most people probably, but I find it really difficult to get going if I don't start off strong. I never really loved the way I started the first rendition of this project, the first original, the zero draft, I guess I should call it now. I ended up just giving up on trying to think of a snappy one-liner or a clever way to start, and just dove right in. But this time, before I could pull myself out of bed and sit myself down at my computer to start actually writing, I needed to know the first line, and I've just come up with it. And I don't know if it'll stick around through all the revision processes, but it's the one that I'm happy with right now. So here we go. So I just finished my first writing sprint, 30 minutes. I did 236 words, so struggled a bit after that opening line. I went back and read the first iteration of the scene that I did last year because I remember this character having a really fun voice. I really should have read through it before I started writing. So I think what I'm going to do next is read through everything that I wrote previously and try and recapture the magic of the first time. But not a bad start, but not a great one either. But I'm committed to sitting in this chair for as long as it takes to get at least 1,000 words, preferably more. Y'all, we are not getting off to a very strong start. It is now 8:30, so it's been about 3.5 hours, and I just crossed 2,500 words, which sounds amazing. Yes, it is far more than the 1,000 words a day goal that I had set for myself. And yes, it technically does meet that limit, that threshold that I had set for this particular scene. But the problem is I really had to work for it. Because I got to about 3/4 of the way through the scene and I only had like 1,400 words. I believe I may have grossly overestimated my word count goals for some of these scenes, which is a huge problem because the lower end of my word count target was only not even 70,000 words, and I'm not even getting that much without really straining myself. Man, I have concerns. So I went back and I fleshed out some of what I had written and worked on a little bit of description, which is always the bane of my existence. And I did finally get it over the 2,500 word mark, which again was that lower threshold that I was aiming for. And I ended up with 2,548 words for this scene. So just barely over that threshold. Not good. I'm going to take a break probably for the rest of the night. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this tomorrow and see if there's anything else I can add to it. But this is going to complicate matters. I was really hoping that I had more to say. This is the struggle I have always had, and it's just I have to work through it no matter what. So it seems to me like my process for this draft is going to be just doing a quick and dirty write-up of the scene and then going back and finding where it is lacking and fleshing it out until it meets my word count goal. I had hoped to do that in a completely separate draft, but I think I'd rather just do it in the moment. That's day one of drafting. Yes, far and away more than what I needed for the day, but pretty eye-opening in terms of the hurdles I'm going to have to overcome going forward. So I'm glad that I did it. It told me a lot, and I'm going to try and do another scene tomorrow and see if it bears out, if what I experienced today bears out for everything else. And then, like I said, I'm going to try and fill this one out a little bit more, try and get it closer to that 3,000 word mark. So with that, I will see you tomorrow. Hey y'all, it is now Sunday evening, and I am just about to get started with writing for the first time today. Unfortunately, I've been laid up most of the day with a migraine. I'm starting to feel at least better enough where I can my laptop and get to work. So I am about to do a writing session. But because I am not feeling 100% and it is a little bit later in the day than I'd like, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to write any new words. I'm just going to continue working on the scene that I wrote yesterday and try and finish fleshing it out. I would like to get it to 3,000 words. It's currently sitting at 2,600, so adding about 400 words. My daily goal is 1,000, so I will be short of that, but since I did more than 1,000 yesterday, well more than 1,000, I will still be ahead of my target. Of course, if I do feel compelled to continue writing, I will do that as well. So I will just go ahead and get started. Hey y'all, I just finished my writing session and I've got great news on two fronts. First, I did a little bit of editing in that first scene and I got it up to almost 2,800 words. I think there's probably still more wood to chop there, But I also recognize that the more I obsess over it, the less progress I'm going to ultimately make. So I've decided to just simply move on. 2,800 words is more than my minimum goal. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But once I finished that, I did decide that I had the energy and the motivation to keep writing. So I did. I moved on to the second scene. And the great thing about that is I feel already much stronger about the scene. My main character's voice is coming out much more in this second scene, which goes to show me that moving on from that first scene was the right choice because I wasn't making any progress in that regard the more I edited it. But moving on to a fresh new scene, I was able to slip back into her voice that I had already started developing the first time I tried to work on this project. So I feel really strongly about the progress I made. I did end up hitting my 1,000 words. My total word count for the day was 1,220, but I actually had taken some out from that first scene as I was editing it and kind of trying to make it a little bit more cohesive. So I netted 1,030. So just over the 1,000 word mark. But again, 1,000 is my goal and I have met it. And because I made so much progress yesterday, I am in really good shape. I'm already way ahead of my goal. And again, the best part is that I am starting to feel more comfortable with the character's voice. I also have noticed that I am taking more care than I usually do in a first draft to comment on character descriptions. Again, that's not usually my forte, but when I had to go back in the first scene and kind of slip some of that in more naturally for my main character, I think it just put it in my head that I should be doing this for any significant character that she meets. So I'm trying to pay closer attention to that part as well. So all told, a very successful writing session. I'm really glad that I decided to push through my lingering discomfort from my migraine and get to work because I ended up being really successful tonight. So 2 days in and I have a cumulative total of 3,645 words in 2 days. That's really awesome. So that's actually just off nano pace. Now, again, it's the weekend and I've dedicated some time to this, so I don't anticipate being able to hold up this pace. But I think that if I make a concentrated effort to do this every weekend and write extra, then I'll put myself in a really good position to maintain my schedule and my pace. So I'm going to leave you for tonight with that, and I will check in with you tomorrow to kind of see how my writing goes once I'm back to work. Tomorrow I do anticipate to be a terribly busy day. The end of the month is always my busiest time, and I am coming back after a week, so I'm going to have a lot of buildup to catch up on and only one day to do it in. So I don't know that I'm going to get a ton of writing done. I'll probably be working through all my breaks and coming home a little bit out of energy, but I'll do my best. I'll try, and I will check in with you tomorrow to let you know. Hello, everyone. It is now Tuesday evening, and you may notice that I didn't write yesterday. And while it might seem like a bad sign that I'm only 3 days into my new writing habit and I already took a day off, I actually anticipated ahead of time that Monday probably wasn't going to be a productive writing day. It was my first day back at work, and the last week of the month is always my busiest time because it is the only time I actually have a hard deadline, which is the end of the month. So coming back from a week-long vacation on the last day of the month meant I had 9 hours to get a week's worth of work done. So I knew that I wasn't going to have any breaks in which I could write, and by the time I got home, I was going to be fried, which was certainly the case. So while yes, I did take a day off, it was expected, and I've already kind of accounted for it in my head and in my plans. So I'm not super worried about it. And the good news is I am back in the saddle today. In fact, I have just finished my writing for the day. I was able to get some done on my lunch at work today, and then I came home and did a little bit more, and then I got some more stuff done, and then I wrapped it up. I did 1,027 words, so just over my daily target. I had designs on completely finishing the scene, which would have been like 2,000 words, but it just didn't work out. I was telling my partner earlier, in fact, that I always seem to give myself one too many things to do every single day. And so in the evenings, I'm always scrambling to try and cram them all in. So today, that one extra thing was finishing this scene, but at least I got my 1,000. So I'm pretty pleased with that. My cumulative total is now 4,673, and I am still on target to finish by the end of the year if I keep up this pace, even with the day off that I took. So that's the benefit of having gotten out ahead of everything over the weekend and actually going over my goal. That gives me a little bit of a cushion. So if I need to take days, then I can, especially since like the next couple of weeks are so crazy. My daughter's got a lot of events. Both my daughters actually have a lot of events, and just getting back into the swing of things at work, it's going to really test me to keep it up, but I think that I can. I'm still in the second scene, which will comprise the entire second chapter. I anticipate for sure finishing it tomorrow. I'm probably pretty close to actually finishing it at the moment, but I will need to go back and flesh it out, or at least expand what I think of as the scene a little bit more, which is fine. I had also kind of anticipated that. So, but that'll be my goal for tomorrow. And I just want to say how pleased I am to be back writing again. It's so funny too, because I bitched and moaned all throughout the world building and the outlining process about how much I hate drafting, but now that I'm back in it, I'm just like, yeah, it is nice. I think it's because it feels more like actual writing. And I am someone who counts world building and outlining as real writing, but it's not words on the page at the end of the day. And nothing beats the feeling of writing words on the page and knowing you hit your goal and feeling productive in that way. It is nice to see my little word count bar filling up as I am going, and seeing my progress tracker, my daily progress tracker going, and seeing the number of words that I have left remaining come down. That is a different level of satisfaction. That'll do it for today. I will check in with you tomorrow. Hopefully, like I said, I am going to finish out this scene, which is a big one. I tend to not really beat around the bush at the beginning of my books. My inciting incidents are often like right away, and that's kind of what this is. This scene and the next scene especially is like the inciting incident. So I don't waste any time. I don't really do a large opening snapshot. Maybe that has to do with how thin I write and how like plot forward I am and all that. So this is a big one. I feel like I've done some good work both in establishing my character's voice and character descriptions. I'm gonna go to bed because it's now 11 o'clock. Actually, I'm not. I still have one more thing to do. And then I'm going to go to bed. I will check in with you tomorrow and let you know how it goes. Hello, everyone. It is now Wednesday evening, and I am just settling in for my final writing session of this vlog. I have gotten exactly 0 words done so far. It is now just about 10 o'clock, so I'm going to settle in and try and get my 1,000 words. I'm going to be super honest. I don't know that I'm going to hit 1,000. It may be more like 800, because I am coming up on the end of the scene, and what I would like to do when I get there is go back through it and see where I can fill it out a little bit, because it does still feel a little thin. It's definitely better than the first one. I do want to go through and just make that part of the process, just go through the scene and fill it out as necessary. So unfortunately, that is quite a time-consuming process, and since it's already a little bit late, I just don't know that I will hit the 1,000. So I'm going to tell myself 800 is okay. If I get the 1,000, great. But if I get to at least 800, I will let myself go to bed. So I've got ambient music, I've got a drink, and I've got 95 of my very best friends. Let's go. Man, y'all, I'll tell you what, I am in the trenches. That sucked. Everything about that sucked. It is now 11:30, so it has been an hour and a half, and I just hit my 1,000 words. And oh my God, not only did it feel like pulling teeth, but everything I wrote sucks. and it's almost certainly going to be revised out later. It's a lot of info dumping. It's a lot of rambling. It doesn't pack the punch that I need the scene to pack, and it just sucks. And I'm so glad that you're here to witness me struggle with this, because this is what I was talking about in the run-up to the draft, where I hate drafting so much. I hate this part of the process where nothing is clicking, and I'm just writing words to hit a goal and to keep moving, but I hate it. I hate it so much. I can't even look at what I just wrote because I hate it so much. And yet I have to leave it there because now is not the moment to revise. Now is the moment to just keep going and just deal with it later. Okay. Enough of that. The good news is, despite the length of time and despite the quality of the output, I did hit 1,000 words. There were moments during the session where I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to bed. Right around like the 498 word mark, I pushed through it. I wrote some words. I did a little bit of discovery of my character's backstory. I don't know that this moment is the appropriate time for it, but I just let myself go in the interest of going. And I am now up to 5,684 words. For 4 days, right? Yeah. 4 days of work, that's not bad. And if I have to remind myself a few extra times that this is just the first draft and it doesn't have to be good, it just has to be written, so be it. So, reminder to myself and reminder to everyone out there struggling with their first draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be good. It just has to exist. And on that note, thank you so much for watching, coming along on my very first drafting vlog. There were some highs, there were some lows, there was some discovery, there was some joy, there was some pain. And there were, in the end, 5,684 words. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. It would be so appreciated. In my next video, I have a very special reading vlog for you where I am trying to trade my screen time for reading time. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.